Hi, I'm Lou Rosalia, and this is Crew Call. Job security and employability security. What's the difference? That's today's topic on Crew Call. Joining me are three people with jobs and who are also very secure. Mr. Scott Glozzi, Mr. Frank Scacciaferro, and the most secure of all, the big man himself, Joe Scacciaferro. How are you guys? Everything good?
Yeah.
Good.
All good.
Good. So let me explain this whole security and employability security thing. I read a summary of a book. I didn't have time to read the whole book, obviously, this weekend. And it was called Forever Employable, How to Stop Looking for Your Next Job and Let It Find You. And it was by Jeff Gothelf, Gothelf. And it was an interesting thing because they talked about the skills gap and skills training and continuous learning. So that was the message of the book. If you kept doing that, you actually create yourself into the character that becomes really employable over time. And that made me think of First Call and what is First Call, how that whole thing works, because that's such a unique term and it's a unique angle of putting, titles and importance of roles and how you get employed in the media and entertainment industry. So with that being said, Joe, I'm going to ask you to define First Call. What is it?
Okay. And I'm going to qualify that with it's actually not, the name First Call is unique to our industry.
Okay.
What I'm about to describe is not unique to our industry.
Got it.
Because in construction, any place where you're independent and you're getting hired by someone, that's what so First Call is your short list of your best guys. So as a production employer, I have a short list of, okay, when we have to do this, I need a specialty camera operator. So First Call is Frank. Then I need a steady cam op. First Call is Scott. I need a host for a show. First Call is Lou. So those are my first calls. And then underneath them, when you get to the second, okay, Frank's not available, you drop down. So short list, and the top of the list is your first call. Literally that. It's the first person you call when you need that particular thing. And it's exactly the same in construction. You need a carpenter, you need an electrician, you need a plumber, you need a whatever else those guys do.
And that's the definition of first call is actually the first call that one would make.
It's first call you make.
And this, Lou, how does it feel being a first call host?
Let me tell you something. Important, very important.
Yeah.
Do you, Frank? How important is it to be first call, to become first call?
I mean, it's extremely important because then you're that kind of proves to you like how other people value your skill and the confidence that they have in you, which kind of just adds to your own confidence in what you do. I mean, if you had found out, if you were not first call and then you found out that, somebody went and called 10 other people and then like they got to you and it's just because you're available and whatever, and that's why you're in there, then I mean, yeah, that's kind of disheartening, but yeah, I mean, it's extremely important being first call. It's not something that I ever thought about getting to, like I want to be first call, but then being there is definitely a huge confidence booster.
This is great because you know what this sounds like? This sounds like, wait a minute, you're the only one left I can ask to the prom?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's exactly that. If you're trying to find a date for the weekend or something, or for like a wedding, and you call, the first girl's not available, the second one, the third one, and then you're like, all right, well, this person's available. It's not really the choice I wanted, but
oh my God,
they're available, so I'm going to go with them.
So I'm going to grab Scott's sports analogy before he uses it.
Go ahead.
Unreal. Go ahead, do it. What was I going to say, Joe? What do you think?
You're going to say
dodgeball.
Dodgeball. You want to be the first one picked.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
That's too
Exactly.
much.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But to that other point, real quick before you get to Scott's question, being not being first call for a while and being that other person, that kind of gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, I guess to say, and try and prove yourself to then work your way up that ladder and become that first call. So it's it's kind of double-edged sword.
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
that even make sense here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a motivator and a
Yeah.
yeah. Glass, speaking about first call and all that other stuff, when you're in the corporate world, so to speak, I'm going to be CEO or I'm going to be a vice president one day or I'm going to be the chairman. When you got into this business, did you understand the titles or did you think of, one day I'm going to be first call?
No, I didn't even know what that was. I think whenever you start a new job or you get into a new industry, I guess I sort of came into production industry late. Joe and Frank have obviously been doing it their entire lives. I didn't know what first call was. I just wanted to get to a level of success in the industry where I can make a living and do well for myself. But I guess now learning what first call is and knowing because I've been probably last on that list. When I started and you're trying to find your in with a studio or in anywhere, you want to get high on that list to where they call you and they want to get you back. But yeah, I guess I always wanted just to achieve a level of success to where I'm consistently on shows and doing everything I can to get people to like me and keep calling me back without knowing what first call was.
Yeah. Joe, first call, becoming that takes a little bit of work and obviously skill. You need the talent and knowledge to get there. Also, the book focused on continuous learning. What role do you think continuous learning has to play moving you up the ladder in media and production?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. The more you know, the more you can do. The more you can do, the more calls you're going to get. You may be first call specialty camera, but you're also first call as a sports camera. You may be also first call as an A1. You may be, as long as you can do different things, you're going to be on a lot of people's short lists and they're going to pick and choose. But if you don't have those advanced skills, and that also plays to where we are right now, the industry's I was going to say it's in flux, but it really is. It's already made the transition into this virtual world. You have to learn all these new skills because you're going to be out of work if all you know how to do is, sit behind an analog console like what's behind me, and you don't know how to, go through nesting and do all that.
Yeah.
You're out of work.
Yeah. Frank, you've been in the business early and long enough, early and long enough to see a whole bunch of changes. What have you noticed in terms of how people learn in the industry from when you started to how things are today?
I would say there was, because I learned always on on a set or in a studio and from a lot of people just because of I was fortunate enough to be around that at an early age. But for people that don't have that opportunity, they didn't at all. There was really nowhere to kind of learn or see any of that stuff in action unless you knew someone in the industry. Now, and Gloss can attest to this a lot. A lot of people obviously go on and learn from YouTube or like something like that and learn from other people. But to that, the negative part of that is like you don't necessarily know who these people are, right? So like you could be learning something that's either going to be obsolete or not the right way, or just from people that maybe just kind of made stuff up and that it works for them, but it's not necessarily the correct way to really go about doing something.
Yeah.
So to that point, that's a huge part of what FerroCity is doing is trying to connect those two things of being in person and learning from people that have been a part of this industry and successful in this industry, but also understanding that it's not really achievable for a lot of people to be in person on those things. So that's why we're trying to be that outlet for people to learn from the right people, but from a distance,
Exactly.
or virtually, as Joe said.
Yeah, exactly. Claus, in school, many people, I would venture to say a lot of people go to school for something and they end up not even working in that industry. I was wondering what your perception was after your internships with Ferro Productions. What's different, or what have you learned that's different now that you work in the industry than what you thought when you were first getting in?
Well, I'm very much, I guess, I learn from experience the best, as I know a lot of people do in this industry. And I can pay attention and grasp as much information as anyone can tell me, but I won't really ever truly learn until I'm hands-on, until I'm actually doing something.
Right.
And at Ferro, like honestly, like I learned so much, and it set me up for success. And really, I came out of there kind of knowing what to expect going into a big studio. Like Joe and Frank and everyone at Ferro Productions kind of gave me all the building blocks I needed to kind of go on and be successful in a bigger studio, and they gave me all the knowledge I was able to get. But people say knowledge is power, and knowledge really isn't power unless you can apply that knowledge and become successful from it. So having all this knowledge from Joe and him actually teaching me how to apply that knowledge is what really did set me up to go into these bigger studios. Number one, know what to expect, and number two, how to take all that knowledge and to apply it and actually be successful.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest thing I took away was that every studio is different, but if you have the right building blocks and the right foundation and learn from the right people, you're going to be successful no matter where you are or what environment you're in.
Well said, buddy. Extremely,
Very, very well said.
extremely well said.
That was a great quote, and I hope that was an original.
Yeah, I actually, I'm glad we're recording this because I'm going to steal the hell out of that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. So all of what we just discussed being true, you've got the skills, you're learning all this stuff. The book said there's a shift and there's a tipping point where you don't look for work anymore. Work seems to come for you. Joe, you've been at this the longest and you've had many experiences in different careers and iterations of this. Do you know, or do you see that point coming up, or does it just happen where, hey, I'm not really looking for work anymore? I have people calling me and there's so much I can't even do it.
It's true. The only problem with that is if you get complacent and you're thinking I'm going to always get called, you might not. So there's a balance. In the beginning, you're chasing, and you're chasing, and you're chasing, and you're chasing, and you get exhausted because you keep chasing, and that becomes routine. You actually don't know how to not chase it. And then all of a sudden you get the calls. So while you're chasing, calls are coming in, and now all of a sudden that. And then the next thing is you're getting enough calls that you stop chasing or developing new clients and new accounts and new projects. And you can stall. I don't know anything about avionics, except I worked at ITT Defense and should know a lot about it. But if a plane
Starting a career and not being in the other one anymore.
If a plane's climbing,
Yes.
and you're climbing, and then you decide, oh, I'm going good, and you turn the engine off, eventually that plane's just going to do this. And then trying to turn the engine back on and climb again, that starts putting a lot of stress. That's the same in our careers. And I want to punctuate one more thing. I thought about it earlier when these guys were talking.
Go ahead.
I forgot what it is. Go ahead.
That's fantastic. That was
Don't worry, he'll remember in like 90 seconds.
Yeah, I will.
And then jump in the middle of somebody.
Jump right in.
Absolutely will.
So with that being said, Frank, I want to talk about something a little bit more contemporary with the whole COVID work stoppage we had. How or what impact might have that whole thing for a year plus of not working had on your outlook to finding work or getting gigs, if it did in any way, shape, or form?
It kind of like kicked you back down the stairs. Like and the only
Great
reason
quotes coming out today. This is phenomenal quotes.
Well, I mean, I use that one very specifically because I mean, I have at a point in my life, I got a tattoo on my arm that's a broken, battered staircase, but it's a never-ending staircase. And the reason I say getting kicked down the stairs is because that whole staircase represents, moving to the next step and always moving to the next step, but never having an end in sight. You just keep kind of climbing, right? So with the whole COVID thing, it was like, I was up until COVID, I was working like every single day, flying all over the place. And it was like what you were talking about, where it's kind of balancing that, getting calls from all over the place and being that first call person, which was, you're riding a huge high. It's that adrenaline of going from gig to gig and, traveling and doing new things and new events and being in new cities and meeting people and all that. So it went from that like huge high of being all the way, just getting to the top of the steps to just like nothing. And then you're like, wow, it kind of felt like I was back at the beginning of my career. and didn't know what to do, didn't even know who to call because nobody's doing anything. So it was, that was pretty disheartening. And it like, I mean, to use the analogy very blatantly, it feels like you climbed all the way to the top and then you just got kicked all the way back down. And now you're trying to climb back up because it kind of leveled the playing field for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, who really coming out of this is going to have the, tenacity to really climb up again and try and go after it? Who's going to be tired of doing that? Who doesn't want to start over again? Yeah. And so, I mean, for me, it kind of, I guess, like maybe brought you back to not to your roots, but brought you back to the beginning. And it's like, okay, well, I know how to do this. I didn't forget how to do this, but I don't want to, because I want to just be where I was at. Yeah. But I mean, and it quickly turned around.
Glaz, in growing Urban Visuals, it's an already successful company. You're growing. You're looking for help. You're looking for talent. You're looking to build your list of first calls. What's your vision for attracting talent to the company? How do you position yourself differently?
I wouldn't say we position ourselves differently. I guess it kind of goes back to our origins. Like when Frank and I first started Urban Visuals, we just wanted to create cool shit, to be completely honest. Like I wanted to shoot stuff and have fun doing it and work with my friends and, make something that I could be proud of and that other people are like, oh, wow, it's really cool. So now what we've started doing is we actually, we'll film behind the scenes of us doing it to show the actual process of what we go through to get these creative looking shots and our final products for our clients. So now not only are we showing our final products online, but we're showing a lot of our behind the scenes and how we get creative here in our home studio in order to get those results. So I think maybe showing a little bit of the process kind of attracts people like, oh, that's really cool. Like maybe, like for our Pro Blends shoot, for example, people maybe see that and be like, oh, that's really cool. I would want to maybe go and learn how to shoot that with these guys. Or, this technique's cool. I've never tried that. And I see Urban Visuals using it. I wouldn't mind like going to shoot with them, and helping out and collaborating with them. And Joe always says it. Collaboration is key. You have to be able to collaborate with all other creators in the industry. And I think that's kind of what attracts other people to work with us is our techniques. We show those techniques and we're very open about what we do and what we're working on. So yeah, I guess it goes back to our origins, to be honest.
Scott's 2 for 2 for good answers, Joe.
Yeah, he's got a prompter in front of him.
I do. Yeah.
He's sitting there reading all this.
And that's why day one is when we chose the name.
He sent the questions beforehand. He had me write his answers, and he's just reading it off a prompter.
And he's drinking.
Yep.
Right. And that's why I keep have him mention my name the whole time.
Yeah. And then Joe Scotch Ferro made my coffee, and the coffee's delicious.
Oh, fantastic.
Hey, before I forget, and I wrote it down. I don't know if it's going to end up in edit, but I was writing, sorry, Glaz, as you were talking. An important factor to that first call, is way back, is if you're not available 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you're not a first call anymore. Yeah. I drop you down my list because it's not worth me calling you and getting rejected.
Yeah.
He's too busy. He's always going to be too busy. So, okay, move number 2 up to number 1. So you have to be careful, and both these guys know how to balance that. Frank and I just had this conversation about a gig he was doing. Fortunato, who's a great guy on location, hysterical.
Very much so.
Mike had to take a gig on Thanksgiving, which he didn't want to do, and he promised a lot of important people that he wasn't going to be working Thanksgiving. But it's a big Metallica show at a UFC fight out in Vegas, and if he didn't take it, that's a big deal. Mike is absolutely the consummate first call at what he does. Yeah. But we're still afraid that, after a while you're going to get bounced out.
Yeah, I mean, and it's that balance that you were talking about before. Like it's tough, and you have to keep your hands in all those different things and try and balance it so you can have that communication between different clients and different networks and anything like that. Because like you said, if you're not available, they might not call it, or if they just think that you're not available. Like I had this problem with, not a problem, but just like something I had to make the client know that I was willing to do that. Like the Fletcher, the robo company that I work for, I was talking to when I was doing the U.S. Open, talking to oh my God, I forgot his name, Mike Musselman, and because they do a women's tournament that travels around Europe and does all this thing, and I was like, yeah, I would definitely want to do that. I was like, get paid to like go work and travel Europe and do all that. He was like, oh, he goes, I would love to have you on it. He's like, I just figured like that you you do a lot of local stuff and you're pretty much busy, so that's why I never asked you. And I was like, dude, I can figure out how to balance that. I was like, don't not ask me to do something because you think I won't. I'm gonna say no. I was like, you kind of have to also that hustle that you were talking about before. It's weird that you have to hustle where they think that you're already you're too busy and you have too much work. So you have to also just make sure that
That's so true.
you still want to get the calls.
Yeah, that's so true. You know what?
I'll jump in here too really, really fast. I know I'm the third person to answer the same question, but I think it's so important because we all always talk about this topic, what it takes to be successful in the industry. And Joe just said it perfectly, and then Frank even touched upon it. You can be as the best guy, but if you are just a little less talented than the number one guy, but you are available, that puts you in that position to be successful. So not everything is talent, although, I mean, it's important to be good at what you do, but not everything is talent. A lot of it is being likable and being available.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. All of those things. I mean, we could talk about this for quite a while because there's so many nuances to that. But rather than talk about it, you should go on FerroCity, buy a book, the whole video course called Guide to Production Success. It explains all of this. Mm-hmm. And it goes into detail that we can on this show.
Yeah.
But it'll give you the roadmap and the path and all the protocol that you need to function in the subject matter we're talking about, plus a whole lot more.
And on that note, Joe, I'm going to stick with you. In the book Forever Employable, the onus of being forever employable turns from the company and saying, okay, now you're with us, you're going to do a 30-year career, 25-year, you're going to get a watch. And it said, well, now you can work for the company, but it's on you to stay here and continue to learn, improve your skills gap, because technology changes, the clients change, needs are different, and if not, you're obsolete and you're out of here. How, Joe, would you counsel somebody coming into the business to accelerate or embrace continuous learning?
We said it earlier. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's going to keep you relevant. If you're not relevant, you're not employable. And you're not employable, it's not just one place, it's any place. So you constantly have to move. And the industry, our industry, and I'd have to say most of society now, isn't your dad's companies. They don't stay. There's not that longevity of 25, 30 years. Nobody's getting watches. 5 years is a long time. I've been tutored early on owning businesses, and I understand that there's a first year, and if you get people to make it past the first year, you got them for 3 years, and if they make 3 years, you got them for 5 years, and that's the point at which something has to be motivated, encouraged, something has to be relatively a big jump for them.
Yeah.
They have to become really valuable, and you have to become really valuable.
Yeah.
You to them, them to you. And it's at that 5-year mark where a lot of people go away. Our industry is different because most of them are freelancers.
Yeah.
So they're touching base in a whole bunch of places. But my other companies that are staff employed, that's something I recognize all the time. And you invest 5 years in somebody, you've trained them, you've kept them, you've groomed them. You don't want to lose them because that's a big loss of revenue.
Yeah. Before we go to the next question, my partner and I, Mark, back in American Express, we were there. I don't know what anniversary it was. It was somewhere between 5 and 10. Maybe it was 10. And we were sitting at the whatever meeting, management meeting, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it was recognition day, like medal day or promotion day. And he's like, we're going to get a watch this year. We're going to get the watch. I'm like, dude, we are not getting a watch. There's no way. As a matter of fact, I got this stupid thing right here. Look at this. I can't believe it. So he said, we're getting a watch. I said, no, we're not. No, we're not. So he was so set on this watch. I said, it ain't going to happen. They come out to give us a little box like this. I said, obviously not a watch. And it ends up being this. I don't know. Can you see it? A little American flag. I was like, it's
not a watch.
Gold. I'm chewing on it. I'm like, piece of crap company. But it wasn't. It was, it was the local leader who had the budget for nothing but that's what we got. No watch. We got that.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking about watches and skill sets, not that they have anything to do with each other unless you're making watches. Frank,
Yeah.
what's your opinion on people who, or your experience on a choice of somebody who just puts the blinders on and says, "This is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what the lane I'm going to stay in. I do this, and I'm not learning anything else." Is that a good move today?
It's funny because like growing up, I was always, and growing up, when I say growing up, I mean growing up in the industry, not like at my house. I was always taught to find one thing and be good at it. And then that kind of not like totally went away from that, but I guess it was more find one thing that you want to really do, but also understand everything, all the other facets of the industry and how the entire production or anything like that works from. And I'm not even saying just the hands-on like audio camera, lighting
Right.
director, anything like that. I mean like down to, from a producer to someone that's writing to every asset or every aspect of the industry in that sense. As far as like me honing in or somebody honing in on one specific thing, it's like, yes, I primarily only do camera, but within that skill set, there's a bunch of different skill sets
Right.
that I learned. Right. So it's like I kept always wanting to learn. I didn't want to just stand behind a PED camera, and nothing against people that do that. That's their choice, and it very necessary. But I always wanted to keep learning different types of cameras and different ways to like all the different robotics and everything that comes with that, and doing jib and doing everything like that. The only thing I never wanted to do was Steadicam. I never had an interest in it.
Which is why you made a friend who does Steadicam. Otherwise,
Exactly.
I need.
Yeah. That's
Not
why I
for
pushed
not
it.
for everybody, Frank. It's not for everybody,
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't want to do it. I don't want to edit. I don't want to do it. So that's why you do all of
I
that.
think that's why we work
I
so
can do
well
everything.
together, because we hate opposite things and we love opposite things.
I know. So as far as, focusing on one specific thing, yes, I do camera, but it's like I don't only do just like shooting a camera as far as handheld or pet or something like that. So it is important to broaden your skill set, whether it's, in every different aspect like that, or broaden your skill set within one skill set, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Absolutely.
Klaus, I was going to ask you at Urban Visuals, but you just started talking about it, you and Frank. Is it with the rapid change of technology and the need to do a whole bunch of different things, do you find yourself hiring people or working with people that have a broader vision of the business, or do you like somebody who's just a real specialist?
I guess neither. I mean, I like both. I guess it depends on the job. That's kind of a difficult question to ask because every job's different. So if I'm going into a job and I need a camera operator, if I need an editor, that's who I'm going to hire. But I guess I'll answer this question in terms for looking for a business partner. I'll go back in Frank. I'm going to talk about Frank here. Frank was the perfect business partner, number one, because we realized, I think, early on in our careers that we worked well together. Number two, we were great at problem solving together, and that kind of pulled from Joe teaching us how to do this very well from early on in our careers. And number three, we both have passion for the industry. So I guess it's all three of those things kind of landed on Frank. Hey, Frank, let's start a business. I can handle a lot of it, and I'll pull you in when I need you, and we will continue this level of working relationship when you're not doing your specialty camera gigs where we can, build these awesome projects for clients together. And in a business partner, finding someone like Frank who you have that level of trust and that relationship with, it's so important, and it's honestly invaluable because who else am I going to find to fill that position? So in terms of finding someone to work with, it's both of those things you mentioned. It's having someone that can adapt and change to levels of technology as they change and really understand how they work. But also it's, having someone who you don't mind being around a lot.
Yeah, sure.
I guess.
Well, thanks, Klaus.
Yeah, I don't mind you.
You almost made me cry. Just to add on his real quick, and I mean, this goes for Joe and any other people that are in that inner circle of like everything that Klaus just said about us working together. I think one of the biggest things is that because we're so close, and this goes for Joe as well, we can be like blatantly honest with each other about
And not
whether
kill
it's
each
good,
other, you know?
whether it's good or bad, and we both can take that honesty, you know, and work through it. Whether it's, you know, saying I hate this concept, or, you know, I don't think that this wasn't good, or like Glaus will send me edits, you know, while I'm at work somewhere else, and he'll send me edits of something we worked on 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, like I might tell him 3 or 4 things that I didn't like about it or whatever, and, you know, he's not going to take that and be pissed off that I said either this sucks or completely change it, or I might say it's really good, and I really don't have any, you know, critiques on it. But I think that level of, like you said, trust, and then just being honest with each other about, you know, really helps.
Yeah. It's also knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses. You know, you want someone to work with that you know what they're good at and you know what they're bad at. And, you know, and I think Frank and I have that good understanding with each other. Like, Frank knows what I like to do, what I don't like to do. He also knows what I am good at and what I'm bad at. And same goes both ways, you know. So we know what specific areas of business we need to talk about and discuss and how to discuss it. And then we know what we can kind of keep separate and work out in our own ways and then collaborate after. So yeah, it just all those elements Frank just said, and it just kind of just makes for a good business working relationship.
Excellent. Can you do me a favor, say Joe one more time, and then we can end the show?
Joe's got your Ferro. He's won multiple Emmy Awards, and he's one of the best in the business. And he's sitting right there on your screen.
He's right there.
Right there.
Right there.
He's nowhere else.
Right
He's
there.
always
I'm sitting
here.
right here scrolling your prompter.
Yeah, can you actually scroll a little faster for me?
You guys are too much.
Go ahead, Lou. I know you're run out of time, so go ahead.
we're
Go
running
knock
out.
it off.
Thank you so much. I think it was a great show, and I just want to point out that it's really important to just keep learning, keep doing, and keep moving forward. And one day you too can become a first call host, like me. Goodbye, everybody. See you later.
See you.
Tell you, Lou, take care.
Take care.
Bye.